At this particular time they did take over Britain, but the Britannic Empire, or the Britons at that time, weren't set up as a major superpower as they were in these days today. You know, coming up into like the 1600s, around there. You know, so you had certain people that inhabited that land that they took over, but they really didn't come into full power until later on in the history. That's why when we read in Revelation 17, it's going to break it down,
right,
who these 7 heads are, and then the whole situation that was going down with them. Exactly. There you go. You know, so they did have some wars there because you had some Edomites up in there, but Britain wasn't really a major superpower at that time until today, going back a few hundred years ago. See, Germania, these are more Germanic tribes that they were taking over. You know. Now this is going towards the end of Esau's kingdom, coming back into, you know, into Jake starting to rule at that time. And basically, in a nutshell, what we're going over tonight is basically these 4 different empires that the Lord set up on the earth before he brought this world down to set his son and us, the Israelites, back up into power. And that's what we're seeing right now. You know? And matter of fact, after this, you know, whatever you got, brother, bring it out, and then we're going to go to Revelation 17. You know, I mean, I know this video is a little long, but I wanted to just let it play just so you can get the basis or the basics of the history. See, they go into the whole Roman conquest here. All right, now let's go from. You got something, brother?
No.
All right, let's go from there. Let's go to the book of Revelation, the 17th chapter, and I believe it starts around. Let me just get it real quick. Revelation 17.
8.
Start at 7.
Revelation chapter 17, verse 7. And the angel said unto me, Wherefore didst thou marvel? I will tell thee the mystery of the woman and of the beast that carrieth her, which hath the 7 heads and the 10 horns.
Right, now this woman that I spoke about, which is the great harlot, was America, because America is the country that these international bankers have used to push all this democracy and these different religious orders around the world. And the beast that's carrying her, the beast is NATO. These different European nations are the one that's really carrying America, especially right now, because the American dollar is basically obsolete damn near. Go ahead.
The beast that thou sawest was and is not.
Right, so the beast that John saw in the vision was and is not. Why? Because America was in his vision, but it was not, because it wasn't established at that time. Go ahead.
And shall ascend out of the bottomless pit.
Right, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit, because America came out of Europe through what's known today as Great Britain. Go ahead.
And go into perdition.
Right, and go into perdition. Why? Because America is going to be destroyed. Go ahead.
And they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they behold the beast that was and is not and yet is.
Go ahead.
And here is the mind which hath wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth.
So it's breaking it down for you. These 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth. Now the 7 heads represent the Greeks, the Romans, the Spanish, the French, the Germans, the Russians, and the British. But they were under their ancient names back then. And all of these nations are the ones that's really carrying America. So it says that the woman, read that again.
And here is the mind which hath wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth.
Right, and all these mountains here, or all these kingdoms, are what's really carrying America and pushing America forward. You know, even though they may have little squabbles here and there with these different nations, but the bottom line is that they're the ones that are carrying America. Go ahead.
And there are 7 kings.
And there are 7 kings. Those 7 kings, I'm going to repeat them again: the Greeks, the Romans, the Spanish, the French, the Germans, the Russians, and the British. Go ahead.
5 are fallen.
5 are fallen. We saw over there in the video we just saw, we saw the different kingdoms that were fallen. Now, I'm going to go here. This is the Romans. And I'll show you, brothers. Matter of fact, let me do a zoom in on this. You can see that this is the website there. You know, if you brothers want to get it, if I remember, I'll put it up and let you brothers see this website. All right, this is called the Romans. All right, this is Roman conquest in the West following the Second Punic War. With Carthage transformed into a pathetic shadow of its former self, Rome was free to turn its machine of conquest to other areas, which in the West included Gaul, which is France, and Liguria and northern Italy. Within 10 years of the last Punic War of Zama in 202 BC, and formerly independent Gauls and Ligurians had become subjugated to Rome in the new province of Gallia Cisalpina. So when you read that again.
It says, the 10th verse, Revelation 17 verse 10, and there are 7 kings, 5 are fallen.
Right, so that's one of the 5, right? Then it says, in Greece too, conflict was brewing. Members of the Achaean League called for a war of liberation against the Romans when Sparta drew Rome into its quarrels with its neighbors' attempt at domination over the Peloponnesian island in accordance with its image as the protector of the Greek cities. Rome had made demands at council of the league that convened in Corinth, which had culminated in the league's defiant and perhaps foolish call for war in 146 BC. Thus, in the same year that Carthage irreversibly fell in the Third Punic War described below, Corinth was sacked thoroughly, and the Greek states too were absorbed into the Roman Empire. That's another one. You had the Gauls, that's the Greeks. In Spain, Rome had set up a provincial government in 197 BC, partitioning the region into northern and southern provinces. This initial attempt at subjugating the Spanish population was not surprisingly met with rebellion from the tribes. The charge of subduing the independent-spirited Spanish tribes came upon the Roman Marcus Porcius Cato, also called Cato the Elder, who dealt with them strongly. Cato's tough measure combined with the dogged independent streak of the Spanish tribes resulted in a year's conflict, which only ceased from an interval during the administration of Tiberius Sempronius Gracchus, who followed more moderate policies. After Gracchus, however, Roman rule in Spain returned to hardline policies once more, inflaming the Spanish with such a fierce resistance that the Roman official in Spain could only hang on the power through unscrupulous atrocities. The Spanish resistance remained strong throughout the years, and the conflict lasted beyond the final fall of the Carthage in the last Punic War. 2 tribes who came close to success against Roman conquest, but were nonetheless crushed.
There you go, another one.
That's another one. All right, and there's a lot here. You could read a lot more.
Another one busted.
But I want to read one more thing over here, which I got to go to the Germanic invasions. This is Germany, and you know there's a lot more information. But we're just going to hit a few points. This is our Germanic invasion, the Gothic Confederation, and the attack of the 3rd century AD. Also toward the end of the 2nd century AD, one of the East German groups, the Goths, had begun a migration forward from the lower Vistula southward toward the shores of the Black Sea. The Gothic king interestingly held more military authority that was typical for the looser central government of other Germanic tribes. The emerging royal family formed the seeding crystal for the integration of other groups under the Gothic banner. In other words, a Goth was not necessarily made at birth, but rather by allegiance to fight alongside the Gothic king. This meant that the migration of the Goths was less of a physical movement than a gradual absorption of other peoples, including German and Slavs living around the Black Sea. So the Germanic tribes were taken down. The resultant Gothic confederation was strong enough in the 3rd century AD to challenge the Roman Empire, weakened by internal troubles. The disturbing rise of a new Persian Empire in the east. Records show that the attacks by the Goths and the Roman Empire began around 247 AD. In 251 AD, they decimated the troops of Emperor Decius at the mouth of the Danube. and killed the emperor himself. Later they took control of ports in southern Russia and greatly hindered Roman shipping in the Black Sea. These attacks continued until the reign of Emperor Claudius I, who earned the moniker Claudius Gothicus for his decisive quelling of the Goths. So these Goths, like in southern Russia, see that that was
Those
the
were
ancient
Germans.
names, right? Those are Germans. Then you also had the Russians that were there,
Okay.
you know,
Right.
under the Ostrogoths.
Right.
Then you had the Visigoths, which ruled in the east. So with all these different tribes that we read about earlier, these are the 7 heads and the 10 horns that were taken down by the Romans at that time. But then they came back and fought against the Romans and broke from them because it was all prophecy. All right, where we at now, brother?
Revelation 17 verse 10.
All right, good.
And there are 7 kings, 5 are fallen.
Right, so the 5 that are fallen were the Greeks, the Spanish, the French, the Germans, and the Russians under their ancient names. Go ahead.
And one is.
And the one that is are the British.